Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to PCM23 Lions episode number 5. We've reached the signing period. We're going to be entering into that in just a moment. And that's the bulk of this episode, other than getting into the new season. So we'll wrap up this season and get into the new season, as there's not much left to focus on for the current year. One last check on scouting and looking at what our options are in terms of potential. We have 2 guys locked in at 4-star potential, and they've got some multifaceted qualities. I don't know what their full layout is like because we don't have a level 10, but we could see that he's going to be a pretty good puncher, and I think ultimately we're going to have to take options like this in this first season, especially as we're going to need some minimum riders we can develop over time. With 7 expiring contracts, really we need to be enlarging the team, not shrinking the team, not even really maintaining. We don't have enough riders to maintain multiple races as it is. But without the finances increasing, we might be stuck hanging on to a very small team for next year. I think minimum we need to sign 6 riders. That might be all we can really afford, but if we can, we'll sign more than that. One of the only good things going for us is that 3 of the 5 current best riders are all the 3 remaining contracts that we have for the coming season. But Zerai has come a long way and has gotten expensive real fast in terms of dossier points. He's only 20 years of age. Let's start with him and see what the damage is in terms of cost. You can see he's got plenty of potential left. Now, unfortunately, we never did get to 100% interest for him, and you can see 2,500 is not a salary he's into. It's going to take more than that, but we're at least starting from there, and I think it's not going to take a lot to push him over the edge if that minimum was 2,500. He's actually willing to even accept teammate. I don't think we even need to do that. We can put him as an important rider to get an even greater boost. Oh yeah, we'll sign him easily enough, I think. 3,000 right now. We're close enough that we can go up 500 at a time. There you go. Hey, 3,500 for Zerai for the next 3 years. It's only 1,000 extra. I'm thrilled by that. Well, we got our first guy, our key guy, and signed for a minimum, so maybe it's not going to be so bad. My worries, well, he's only a 3-star guy. I am targeting some better guys than that, so I do have a feeling we are still going to have some challenges to face in the signings. But here's the finances that we're dealing with. We have 17.5 in expiring contracts. We already know that from the finances this year that we can easily maintain the spending level that we have currently. So we know we can spend that 17.5, but also we've been making profit as we go along. And I checked the finances, and I think we can just about get away with spending another 10,000 or so. That's pushing it. So I rounded down just a little bit. So instead of 27.5, I rounded down to 27, 9,500. I'd like to keep us a little bit lower than that, probably 25, because we don't want to go crazy and put ourselves massively in debt. But that's the kind of money we're dealing with. Zerai, just 3.5. That's a good start. And we need to sign minimum 5 more guys. Next, I'm going to go into those 2 guys that have potential, because I know I can sign them for a minimum. I think that's a good start point for us. Osman took 3,000 to get him signed, and a 3-year deal. I actually tried a 2-year deal initially, but we had to extend the length as opposed to extending the salary, and I think that was a better ultimate deal for us. So we get 3 years with Osman for 3K. I think that's going to be worth it. And we have our 3rd signing complete just like that. Johannes has signed for the minimum for 3 years. I'm really excited that we've got a few decent prospects that we have on the team for next year. Now we need to try to get a little bit of quality so that we can succeed with some sponsor objectives. Hopefully we can afford some of these guys. Pretty sure I already previously stated that I think adding a sprinter, which is something we lack, is hugely important to us. So Ryan Gibbons is the only natural target for this. He really doesn't have a great web, but he still has a little bit of potential at 28. He's only 3.5 stars, so I don't think this is going to be a crazy expensive signing. I'm hoping for 6K. And it's looking like maybe less than 6K. Definitely a 3-year deal. We'll keep him until he's 31. He could be our sprinter for now and our lead out rider when we eventually find somebody better. Put him as sprinter, but definitely not the absolute sprinter. And I think we are going to have to increase this for sure. But we'll start at 37. That's not far. That is not far from getting him signed. Like I said, I think we can handle... and that was yellow. When we get green, it's going to give us a pretty good boost. Yeah, we almost got him. 47. 47. I was aiming for 6 or less, so 4-7 for Gibbons. He's going to be a key piece for us for a little while. He's never going to be a great sprinter, but at continental level, that's a big step up from an entire team of low 60s. Getting a guy into low 70s, I mean, that's a plus 10. That's a major step forward. We've now used half of what we had for salary. We have 13, up to 13 remaining. I'm definitely not going to get Kudos and Dlamini. In fact, I'm not even sure we're going to get Kudos at all, but man, oh man, could we use a climber like that? Dlamini, a lot weaker, but has higher interest, lower current quality, and has some potential. I think we might have to pass on Kudos, since I just don't think we're going to have the money to sign him. I mean, he's making 6K right now, but he's already 29 and didn't have high interest. I have a feeling trying to sign him, well, 7 or 8K really isn't that bad if we can get him in that range. Dlamini, meanwhile, is only going to be a puncher, which is not going to be terribly useful for us. I only have 25 points remaining, by the way, so we're going to have to be really careful where we go from here, because 15 would go right to Kudos. We need quality. We're going to go for it with Kudos. We're going to put him as a leader. I am going to sign him for 3 years. We will end up almost certainly not re-signing him at the end of those 3 years, but at 32, he's going to be one of our better climbers for at least 1 season, probably 2 seasons, before then the 3rd season being a glorified domestique. But we're talking about a 4K salary as a start point. It's obviously going to take more. We're going to start at 5K. Okay, so he's happy with all of this, but he's still got a ways to go. I don't even think 6K is going to be enough. That interest is definitely hurting him, but we'll try 6K. That's close. 6.5 might do it, or 7. 6.5 is pretty tolerable. It's not a great number, but we said we had 13, and I was needing to sign at least 2 more guys, and 6.5 is exactly half of that, and nobody else is going to cost us what he's going to cost us. Not a great signing. It's not a deal that I'm thrilled with. I'll be happy when that money goes away and we spend something similar on somebody a lot better, but that takes reputation. And you've got to have some guys capable of doing more than what we have right now to garner some reputation. It's a step that has to be made. You wouldn't want a 3-year deal necessarily for a guy like this, but this is the nature of the team in the current state. Got to do what you got to do. So I have an interesting choice on what left to do. I think I have the ability to sign 1 guy or 2 guys, depending on profile. Cabrevet, you can see, puncher. He's going to be weak overall. He's not going to do much more. He's only 21. But he's an okay prospect who likes us. Dlamini doesn't like us. Certainly has a better profile, but in terms of his strength, it's still just a puncher of a very same or a very similar quality who's not going to be very good in the mountains and not going to be better than a couple guys I have, and probably cost me a little more money, and it's already 27, so he's not going to develop rapidly. Or we can get a second guy, or a Fane, who can develop into being that second sprinter, to give us 2 guys, to give one to lead out the other. Who's better, him or Gibbons? Well, probably Gibbons for a little while, and he's not quality. I mean, this is not a sprinter that I would ever normally sign under the circumstances. This is it, folks. This is Africa. He won't sign for the minimum, which sucks. 3K, though, should do it, and it does. I decided to go for a 2-year deal on Gabrejevic, as he really just doesn't have a whole lot of potential. He's not going to offer us too much, so I figured a 2-year deal means we can move on to somebody else in a couple years, as long as we have somebody else that we found to move on to. We do get him also signed for that minimum, that 2.5, That's going to help us out. Overall, that's going to put me just inside my goal of 27K. I was hoping to be about 25 or less. 25.7 is what we're going to finish out at. And just in case we find another rider in scouting that's really good, like say one of these two guys, I think I might be willing to squeeze out that little bit more money. Another minimum salary for one of these guys would be pretty handy. This, by the way, is where we've been and where we're headed. The blue web matrix here is the current team, and that's with the upgraded Zerai. That's with quite a few riders that have progressed from where they were at the start of the season, where we were at a bare minimum. This is the web for next year. We're going from 10 riders to 10 riders, so no change in the size yet, because we don't have the salary to really afford expanding yet. We need to get out to 14 plus riders before too long. Definitely still going to be a continental team, but we're pushing up to over 2 stars. Guaranteed at the beginning of this year, we were less than a star. How much less, I don't know exactly. Maybe it was half a star or something like that, but that's a big step in a more competitive direction going forward. That, I would hope, next season can translate into at least getting into the green so that we can start increasing that salary year after year. I'm happy that we're not losing ground because I've certainly been there. I've been there before where a first year team was so bad intentionally that we did drop. I don't think I've gone into the red before, but I've definitely been in the orange. I might have been in the red once before. Maybe. So this is a positive sign. We've had 2 wins. That's hard for a team like this. It's a minor detail, but one thing I definitely like that they have changed for this year is now the World Championships are uniform. You're going to be in one location for both the road race and the time trial, but also there's a process that's going to go behind it. So here we have the announcement that 2027 World Championships will be in Belgium, but we also have candidates for the 2028 World Championships, and it's going to be between France and Norway. So Bergen, that was a great World Championship. I loved that location for the World Championships, by the way. Continuing down the scouting path, I have found another, this time a 4.5-star prospect. This is actually the best one we found in scouting this season. This 18-year-old is a cobbled rider, flat in time trial overall. I mean, we're not talking about a woohoo kind of profile, but hey, 4.5 stars is 4.5 stars. And it turns out it's not showing up, but it looks like he's a 5-star puncher as well. So he's not just going to be cobble rated, but he's going to be classics and puncher rated. That actually is a good combination. And he's not too bad starting out. The hills and sprint part aren't there right now, but we want to sign this guy as well. So we are going to spend that extra 2.5K. I can tweak our staff a little bit to save a little bit of money actually in the coming season. I have 2 modern trainers right now, and one of them is of national quality, but the guys aren't modern. Groundbreaking is good young prospects. So I have a groundbreaking one who we can sign for 3K, which is cheaper than the 5K we have. So we're going to save 2K. So this guy really only cost me 500. Sadly, I have to sign him for 3K. So there's the extra. So ultimate cost is 1K a month for this guy. So it's time for our first look at the team rankings and the individual rankings and the nation rankings and this totally revamped ranking system this year. It's changed for the first time in a long time. Now, it used to be Pro Cycling Manager that there was, individual rankings. This portion of it was all there, but there was 3 different systems of rankings. You had World Tour rankings, points acquired only in World Tour rankings. Then you had Continental rankings, all the other races outside of the European Championships, etc. But then there was a combined ranking, which was the Super Prestige, and that was the all-encompassing. It was the the World Tour ones, the Continental ones, the Continental Pro ones, the World Championships, the National Championships, all of the above was combined into Super Prestige. Now, for those unfamiliar, there is a more minor part to what I do on the channel besides just play some games. I'm a stats junkie. I grew up as a stats junkie. When I first started the channel, I kind of started with the premise of a gaming decathlon, hence the Decathlon Gamer name for the channel. And the concept was play 10 games, have it resemble the Olympic decathlon, and it resembles that in the sense that in the decathlon, you compete not against the others, you're competing against the clock, or you're competing against a record in the event. So when you go out and do shot put, you're trying to get the farthest you can get on the shot put. And even though you finish second out of 10 competitors, it doesn't mean that you have a second place points, which is what we're used to seeing in most events. You are scored based off of getting closest to the record. And even though you were second, you were millimeters behind the one who finished first, but you were a foot ahead of somebody who finished third. You will almost have the exact same score as the one who had finished first. The one who finished third would be significantly lower. So you're scored based on performance. 10 events, combine the score, gives you your grand total. Now, each of those events have a scoring system based on the target being 1,000 points. Now, you can actually exceed that in all of them. Essentially, if you set a world record, you're going to exceed 1,000. 1,000 times 10 events is 10K. That's the target. Well, I started that with games. I'd set games up to be a score evaluation out of 1,000. I do that for each game, and then that adds up to 10K. Trying to keep up with 10 games has since become a bridge too far for me, but I've long since eclipsed doing a lot more than 10 different series, and so I compare to kind of a lifetime of that. And I still keep going with each game and trying to get to 1,000. And for each and every one of them, it's not just, yay, you won the game, here's 1,000 points. There's a scale. There's something you build up to. So there's always some sort of evaluation that pushes you towards the ultimate target. Now, of course, in this series, the ultimate target is to develop Africa. But because I can only use African riders, the traditional scoring system that I used for this game is still relevant and still a good measure of the progress we have made. But we have a new ranking system this year that has it's done away with the World Tour, it's done away with Continental, and technically it's done away with the Super Prestige. What it's replaced it with is a single scoring system that resembles the Super Prestige, but now provides different values. And Jumbo-Visma, my old system, was take that Super Prestige and divide by 10, because in a given year, 8,000, 9,000 was the maximum you would see from a team. I eclipsed 10,000 once. I've never seen the other teams do it. Right now we're looking at 25,000 for Jumbo-Visma. But Ineos is close. Soudal Quickstep is close. UAE got over 20K. So 25,000, that wouldn't be enough of a target. I would think, based on this, and especially considering that the number one individual rider, Remco Evenepoel, has 6,000 himself. My old focus was 5K. That was the old target for an individual rider when I did my pro cyclist mode. So assuming higher scores can be achieved, that the number 3 team had the number 1 guy, and Jumbo-Visma has 3 guys in the top 10. You can go higher than that, but probably not a lot higher. So I think an ultimate target for this series will be 30,000 team ranking points in one season. And that will be a real measure of Africa has become the best, because that would be an all-African team scoring 30,000 points, outdoing the best team in the world right now by some margin. So 30,000 to come down to 1,000 for a score means I will be dividing our team score by 30, and I'll be keeping track of that as we go through season by season to see if we can ever get to that mark. But how have we done in season number 1? 85 teams have picked up points this season, and we are 65th. There are development teams, U23 teams, that have outscored us. That not a bad season when you look at the point that, we're ahead of a good 20 teams. But then you look at the development teams scoring above us, and that hurts a little bit. We got a long ways to go. Final total for the season, 282. That's good enough for 9 points in the gaming decathlon. Out of 1,000. Got a long ways to go yet, folks. Long ways to go. But that is our first season in the books. All in all, 2 wins is a very successful first season. We also have a significantly better team for next year. And we also signed 3 good 18-year-old prospects for the coming year that are all 4 stars or better. And that's a lot better than what we have. So I'm looking forward to a better team in the coming year. I'm looking forward to more talent, better prospects. We re-signed the 1 good prospect we had, so actually we have 4 prospects. But Zerai is already well along the way towards becoming the quality rider that he will eventually become. Good things are coming. Good things are definitely coming. Definitely a good and bad first season. You'd always hope for more than what we got. You'd hope for increased sponsor. We could have easily lost money, and we didn't. So I'll take it. Not a bad first season at all. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there, and bye for now.